This week on East Texas Politics, all four Smith County commissioners join me to talk about the county budget, the challenges, the misconceptions, and the priorities. Plus, Smith County Constable Josh Joplin on his push for law enforcement pay parity. And welcome to another edition of East Texas Politics on East Texas Now. Our first guest this week is Smith County Commissioner Precinct 1, Christina Drury. Commissioner, thanks for being here.
Thank you for the invitation.
Talking about the Smith County budget, much has been requested by elected officials and department heads. History shows us that not all of the wishes will be granted. That's just the reality of this process. What are the top concerns for you in the next budget?
Well, my mind is always first on the taxpayers. This economy is really rough. Everybody's suffering right now. So taxpayers top of mind. I want to protect that tax rate, but we still have to provide the core responsibilities of county government. Obviously, we have a courthouse about to come online in January, so staffing, maintenance, that is absolutely crucial. The voters approved that courthouse and they expect it to be maintained and to be clean when they come in. So that's a priority. I would definitely say we have to focus on the courthouse. Roads, we know we have some issues on our roads. I think we're making great strides, but roads have to be a big focus of this year. I was glad to see some equipment asks so that we could be more productive with our time.
And I do want to talk about that request from the Sheriff's Office for an increase in pay to help with recruiting and retaining employees, especially deputies. There's been a lot of public discussion about this. There's been a lot of public support for this as well. You have suggested a phased approach when it comes to the raises for the Smith County Sheriff's Office, saying doing it all at one time is really not an option. Why is that, and how would this phased approach work?
So let's start with some of the misconceptions that are on Facebook right now. There's a little bit of an argument about the semantics of it. To me, the facts are that it was a $5.3 million ask. I asked in court whether what the total amount was, and to that, Chief Jackson said it was over $5 million. At the same time, I'm looking at my laptop with the Black Book, that's their spreadsheet, with the salary increases, and it has a total of $5.3 million. And then we also have the funding package, funding request package from the auditor's office that also reflects a $5.3 million total, but he also, the auditor doing his job, added in the extra cost. And so you're at $6.3 million for that total ask. So you tell me, did they ask for 5.3 or was there a different number? And
so when you say added cost, what are those costs?
Like unemployment and workers' compensation, FICA, those other things. The full salary package would cost $6.3 million. And that's, we can't eat an elephant in one bite. So I do like a phased approach. I think there's multiple ways that you can do this. I'm only one member on the court, but I like looking at different ways to implement incremental salary increases over the next 3 to 4 years. There's ways to do that. I like to focus on those that are lowest on the totem pole. We have over 548 employees that are paid less than $60,000 a year. And Smith County's average or median income is $63,000 a year. And so I always look at taking care of those that are hurting the most right now and then move up the chain.
And it's been said that this is a can that just keeps getting kicked down the road, raises for law enforcement, specifically the Sheriff's Office. It does sound like you are in agreement that something does need to be done in this next budget. Is that right?
Absolutely. But last season in the budget cycle, we had asked HR to do a county-wide salary study in which they did that. We've had the numbers for a really long time. That is all 959 employees, and the total on their salary study is $6 million. Obviously, we can't eat that in 1 year either, and my preference would be to focus on those lower salaries and move up, but we have to make a commitment. I know that was one of the things that was brought up in Commissioner's Court is we can't obligate future courts, but we're already obligated to putting a cent into the Facility Improvement Fund or the 4.5 or 4, I think we're 4 1/4 now on Road and Bridge. We've already shown that we do commit to things. And I think that would be important. If we can find a proper plan to phase this in over 2, 3, or 4 years, I think we should make a commitment through the court to stick to that. But you have to realize in the the staffing request this year alone, $4.5 million on top of salary increases. So the only way to do that, if we incorporated all of that, you're looking at increasing the taxes. There's no way around that.
And you mentioned that. Is there any scenario in which you would ever be in favor of a tax increase?
I'm not ready to speak on that right now because we haven't seen the revenues for this year. I don't know what the real picture is and what we're looking at, but I do not want to burden our taxpayers. But I also have to balance the services in the county. We don't want to have poor services.
And I want to talk about the budget surplus. There's been a lot of discussion about this. You made a post about it on social media. County Judge Neil Franklin opened this week's budget workshop with a statement really focusing in on the surplus. What can that money be used for, and what can that money not be used for?
Well, first let's talk about where it comes from. I've seen that stuff on Facebook, and people don't really understand how you build up a reserve. The reserves are funds that we had taken from the taxpayers. Let's not mince words there. We don't ask. We take money. Then we've made a budget for, let's say it's $100. Well, we only used 80. You can look at it whether you call it underspent or overestimated, it doesn't matter. What's left over at the end of the year drops into that savings account. Basically, we're going to call it a savings account. It's not a true term we should use, but so that buildup has been going for a while now. I think we're at $59 million. Well, the Government Finance Officers Association recommends keeping 2 months worth of the county's expenditures in that account. So in case of emergencies, we have funding available. Now, Smith County's policy is 25%. So at today's total that expenditure, it would be about $30 million that we need to keep in that reserves. It's just like you as a citizen, homeowner, you have an emergency savings for if something happens to you. You have that money available for a temporary need. Salaries aren't temporary, those are ongoing. So a reserve can be used for one-time capital purchases. We can use it to buy down the debt and reduce the INS tax. We can seed a fleet line item so that we can make a plan over the next 5 years on our fleet management. That's something Smith County doesn't have. We are reactive, we are not proactive. And somebody has to get in there and make a plan to replace our fleet in an appropriate time. We need contract management so that we're not losing money on the increasing costs of contracts that aren't being negotiated. That's where we're at right now, is we really need to get organized and move forward with a plan in mind to take care of our citizens and help our employees do a better job where they're at.
Commissioner, in the time we have left here, anything else you want to mention about the budget process that we haven't talked about just yet?
Well, I would like to mention that I have a town hall that I've been hosting since I took office. This has been 19 months now. We have it on the last Friday of the month. I value citizen engagement. Elected officials take your silence as consent. And so I have made it a point for Precinct 1 to be accessible through my Coffee with the Commissioners every Wednesday, and I host these town halls. When this airs, I'll be hosting a town hall that's exclusively about the budget. I want to hear from my citizens what they want funded, what they don't want funded. I want to hear their ideas and take that back to court as a representative of Precinct 1.
All right, Smith County Commissioner Christina Drury, appreciate the time. Still to come, Commissioners Scott Harrod, John Moore, and Ralph Caraway Sr., and later Constable Josh Joplin. East Texas Politics on East Texas Now. We'll be right back.
What if you didn't just check the weather, but understood it? Why storms build, where fronts come from, the story behind it all. Because weather isn't just in your forecast, it's everywhere. First Alert Weather Extra. It's just more.
And welcome back to East Texas Politics on East Texas Now. Joining me now, Smith County Precinct 3 Commissioner J. Scott Harrod. Scott, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. We continue our discussion about the Smith County budget. What do you think the challenges are in putting together the county's next budget this time around?
The challenges are numerous. One of the key issues we're facing is there's just so many needs, balancing the needs of the community as well as the needs of our staff, our employees within the county, and then finding the best level of service to achieve all of those needs. As we've heard, there's a lot of needs from our different departments, from our elected officials. And it's important to me to hear all those, to listen with an open mind and try to not predetermine or prejudge what's not possible or what's an easy layup, if you will. So just listening and understanding what the needs are, and then balancing that with what I'm hearing from the constituents, from my residents in Precinct 3, reaching out, letting me know what it is that they need more of, what services they need to be provided better, and then realizing that we can't achieve every possible budget request from department heads and elected officials.
And Scott, what are some misconceptions you've heard about the budget process?
Well, if you pay attention to social media or even have a casual conversation in a restaurant or out and about in the community, there is a lot of different misconceptions as to what dollars can be used for what, and how much the county is actually sitting on. We want our county to be healthy, and we want to be prepared in case of a situation in which we had to take care of it with our reserve funds. But reserve funds are just those. They're there to make sure that we're prepared to handle a situation that, given circumstances, we may have to jump in and immediately take care of. Also, a lot of people don't recognize the fact that we run a fiscal year that begins October 1st, runs obviously till September 30th, and in that, most of our tax dollars aren't collected until January. So you've got a 3-month period there in which you're having to maintain operations and do so at a high quality, and money's not really coming in. So you've got to be really careful with how far you dip. The county has set a reserve ratio of 25%, and I think that's fair. That's a good number. And we've seen that we've got some additional dollars that we'll be able to hopefully take care of some of the needs from these department heads and elected officials.
And there are always tough decisions to be made in this process. Not everyone's going to be happy with the decisions made, but decisions have to be made. When it comes to taxpayers and county employees, what's your message to them as the court prepares to make some tough choices in putting together the next budget?
Yeah, I think it's key that we listen. Even when a constituent or resident contacts me about a situation that they're having, whether it be a road or whether it be any number of things in which the county is responsible for, hearing them out is first and foremost what they need. Then giving them a clear answer as to what can be done about it, if anything. And sometimes that hard answer is, no, this is not something that we're able to take care of right now, but when is a reasonable time? And last year, we said a couple things. We said, give us another year, we'll look at it, and we're gonna do some things to try to address it. That is very important to me when we say those kind of things, that we actually circle back. With my residents, with people that reach out with their problems, that is a conversation that sometimes we have to have, is that no, we can't take care of that right now, but let me get you a timeline of when we actually can. Or explaining why some things aren't feasible and why the county can't actually do what's being requested, whether it be a turn lane or whether it be any number of things, what's preventing us from doing so. And generally, when you're really listening and you're having those conversations and then you're providing them the feedback, even when you're giving them that answer to the question that's not what they were hoping to get, they understand better. And so I want our employees, our elected officials to know every request is being listened to, and really making sure that if we can't accomplish it, we're giving a reason as to why. And then beyond that, if it's something that needs to be done but can't be done now, what kind of timeline are we putting to it so that we can get it addressed?
All right, Smith County Commissioner Scott here. Thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Still to come, Commissioners John Moore and Ralph Caraway, plus Precinct 4 Constable Josh Joplin. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to East Texas Now. This is Hannah,
Kylie,
and Leo. And we're covering the stories you want to hear about.
Live local news, breaking news, and interviews all day long, every day.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you were entertained and, more importantly, informed.
And guess what? You can watch us totally free with no subscriptions. You can just search KLTV 7.
This is East Texas Now, live local news all day long.
And welcome back to East Texas Politics on East Texas Now. Joining me now, Smith County Commissioner Precinct 2, John Moore. Commissioner, thanks for being here.
Blake, thanks for having me.
We continue our conversation about the Smith County budget. When it comes to this budget, what principles must guide the court in deciding which requests are granted and which things will just have to wait?
Well, it's probably not the best way to say it, but I like to put it as the worst first. The ones that need the most attention, I think, are the ones that should get the most attention. And in my opinion, this go-round, that's going to be trying to increase the salaries for the sheriff's office and some of the other law enforcement agencies and for the district attorney's offices. I'd also like to see a cost of living raise for everybody.
And if doing that requires an increase in the tax rate, is that something you'd consider?
I wouldn't be against it. I think it's going to be a really hard sell, though, because the things that are pushing the need for salary increases are the very things that are hitting everybody. And so it's hard for people at home, just like it's hard for the folks who work for the county. Keep in mind, people who work for the county understand that they're not going to get paid as much as most jobs because the benefits long-term tend to be better. Your retirement and your health care and your insurance tend to be a little bit better as far as being paid for the most part by the county. But it's a hard sell. Am I against it? No, I think I'd be open to entertaining that. But what I would like to see is some sort of a survey to see if the public would even entertain the idea. It's not something I'm wild about. I do not want to see taxes raised like anybody else, but we've got to figure out how to stop the turnover. That's one of the things that's really hurting us right now. And I had HR run some numbers on what it's costing us per person per year every time we lose somebody. And in some of the areas, it's $18,000 a year to train new people and get them certified. So if we're going to spend that money anyway, let's figure out how to give it to the people who are already doing a good job.
And you mentioned that in this process, you not only have to look at the upcoming budget year, you have to look long-term as well. You
do. And I want to bring up, you haven't asked about this, but I want to bring this up. There's a number of people on social media who are saying, well, there's extra money in, this account or that account, and that's true. But what you have to remember is that money is very limited on how it can be used. You can't use it for salaries long-term and things like that. So in some of those areas, that's just not an option, even though the money is there. However, there are, I think, some options that could be considered, like a one-time stipend or something to try to help, because we are losing people to other counties. In law enforcement, for example, we will bring in people to the sheriff's office, and we'll train them, we'll send them to school, we'll do all the certification, and the minute they get a year or two under their belt, they go to work for a neighboring county or a city or even some of the school police departments because they can make more money. So that just doesn't make a lot of sense to do that. We need to stop that.
And this will be your last budget that you'll vote on as a Smith County Commissioner. In that, you don't have the worry of making decisions that may not get you reelected. You can really take on some of these challenging and tough decisions that are required of leaders in a budget process. What are the tough choices you're willing to make in this budget process, with it being your last?
Well, those who know me know that whether I got reelected or not wasn't really the point. Doing the right thing regardless has always been how I've guided, my principles and what I try to do. What am I willing to do? Whatever it takes. Commissioner Ralph Caraway and I have offices right across from each other, and we talk frequently over coffee. And one of the things that we really treasure is the fact that we don't always agree on certain topics, but we're able to sit down and discuss them. So what am I willing to do? I'm willing to talk to anybody about a way to get these problems solved.
And with the minute or so we have left here, Commissioner, what do you think is the biggest conception among members of the public when it comes to the county's budget process?
That there's plenty of money and there's not plenty of money. We have one of the lowest tax rates of any comparable counties in the state of Texas. There's 254 counties. And if you look at what our tax rate is and for example, what commissioners make, our commissioners in Smith County make 42% less than a comparable salary for another commissioner in other counties, but that's not just commissioners, it's a lot of the salaries. I think people think there's plenty of money, and there's not, and it's because we keep our tax rates low, but we've got to keep our options open.
All right, Smith County Commissioner John Moore, thank you for making the time to be with us.
You bet. Glad to be here.
Appreciate it. We're back with more East Texas politics on East Texas Now, right after this.
Did you know you can watch KLTV 7 live or whenever you want? Totally free with no subscriptions. Just search KLTV 7 on your Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, or Android TV. Get local live news, first alert weather, and sports anytime you want it. Download and stream KLTV 7, watch live, or play it back later. It's easy to watch, easy to install, and it's free. This is KLTV 7 on your schedule. So the next time you stream, search KLTV 7 News.
And welcome back to East Texas Politics on East Texas Now. Joining me now is Smith County Commissioner Precinct 4, Ralph Caraway, Sr. Commissioner.
All right.
Thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
Appreciate it. Talking about the budget, what do you think the challenges are in putting together the next county budget?
Well, we have a lot of challenges. We have challenges with giving the different department heads some of the things that they need as far as personnel as well as equipment. Those are some of the major challenges that we're facing this year.
And in terms of misconceptions about the budget process that you hear in the community from constituents, what are some of those big misconceptions that people have about how all of this works?
Well, you know, I think it varies. When you look at why we have to have a budget and what the budget does, there are a lot of things that we have to do that are state mandated that have nothing to do with the county. And some of those mandates are funded and some of them are not funded. And when we get a mandate that's not funded, then as a county, we have to come up with the funds to support that mandate.
And when it comes to making those tough decisions, there's been a lot of presentations from the elected officials, the department heads, lots of needs outlined this year. Many of the department heads have said, you know, we wouldn't bring this to your attention if we didn't absolutely need it. How do you weigh those needs with also the amount of money you have and the possible impact on taxpayers? How do you make those tough choices?
You know, it's the tough choices that we also have to make at our home. There's always tough choices. You have a lot of needs, but you have just so much money to support those needs. And we have to look and be very precise and detailed and do as much as we can to help those department heads as much as we can, and also take in consideration the constituents of this community when it comes down to what we do with that appropriated money.
And Commissioner Caraway, what principles do you think must guide the county in putting together that proposed budget?
Oh, that's a powerful question, because I think there are a lot of principles, and we have to look at maintaining a service that the constituents are used to having. We also have to be futuristic, looking at some things that we have to cover in the future, and then just a whole lot of things we have to do maintaining personnel that we already have.
And you mentioned that in putting together the budget, you not only have to look at the next budget year, the fiscal year, you have to plan long term as well.
You have to plan long term, and you have to look at how you're going to maintain what you have, but also look at the resources that you have to put on reserve to maintain what you're doing.
All right, Commissioner, anything else you want to mention about the process that we haven't talked about just yet?
Well, you know, I think we're going to do the very best we can for the people of this county, as well as the employees that serve this county as well. And we're working hard to do the very best we can to accommodate the people of Smith County.
All right, Smith County Commissioner Ralph Caraway, Sr. Appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time.
Still to come, Constable Josh Joplin. We'll be right back.
East Texas Sports Now. It's a podcast featuring coaches and athletes from high school to the pros. We cover football, rodeo, fishing, and everything in between, with new episodes every week. East Texas Sports Now, available on all major podcast platforms.
And welcome back to East Texas Politics on East Texas Now. Joining me now is Smith County Constable, Precinct 4, Josh Joplin. Constable, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. This week you came to the court with your budget presentation. Among the things you're asking for, pay parity for all Smith County law enforcement officers. Not just sheriff's deputies, but constables, fire marshals, investigators in the DA's office. What exactly are you asking for and why?
So for years, the deputy constables is what I can speak to for now. We've always kind of been on the same pay parity level as the sheriff's deputies, and they do that to try to make it fair. I know that the DA's investigators have been brought up to pay parity for what the investigators at the sheriff's office make, and I also know that the fire marshal's office, they're kind of on that investigator pay scale as well, because they do investigations when it pertains to arson and things like that. But I know that the main primary concern is that you know, we talk about losing law enforcement because of pay to other agencies or things like that. And I realize that the sheriff's office is asking for a raise, and those guys need that. I mean, the ones that are working patrol, the ones that are working CID, that's your ground on the department. I mean, that is the foundation of that office. Without them, you can't function. But without dispatchers and jailers, you can't function either. So that's a very wide range of people that you have to take care of. But on the same hand, if we don't try to maintain that pay parity on the county level, that's going to create these smaller departments like your constables, your DA's office, and your fire marshal's office to lose people as well. And so I'm not saying that nobody needs a raise. I'm not saying that someone needs more than the other. I'm saying that in order to keep the good employees that we have in this county moving forward, you have to keep it the same. And it's not just law enforcement. We have employees in this county right now that make so little that they're on food stamps. And so we have to look at everybody as a whole and bring everyone's pay up to where it needs to be to make a decent living and to be able to afford the groceries and the bills.
And if increasing that pay means an increase in the tax rate, would that be something you'd be in favor of?
I think that there's ways that we can give these raises. I know that they have COLAs in place that they're looking at. I know that some commissioners believe that we can do kind of a step program, so to speak, instead of just doing it all at once. And I think that over the years, there have been some tax increases from the previous courts, and I know that the public's not for that, but we as a whole have to look at two things. You have to look at, do you really want to have the good services that we have in the county and what that costs? But at the same time, we also have to look at our citizens and say, hey, they're struggling to pay bills. They're struggling to put gas in the tank. So it's a tall order, and it's a tough order for the commissioners. And so I would say that, am I for a large, huge tax increase? No, I'm not. But at the same time, we do have to come to the table and ask the public, you know, do you like the services you have now? Do you want us to continue with what we have now, or do you want us to expand with the growth that's coming into this county? I know that my precinct alone has added large amounts of businesses that employ hundreds of people. That's increased traffic. We've added a lot of mobile home parks in our area to take in for the people moving in. Our school districts are having to build new buildings because they're running out of space for kids. And as that population grows, the question is do we grow law enforcement, do we grow the services, or do we leave it like it is and do we fall behind?
And going back to that discussion about law enforcement pay parity, since your presentation to the court during this week's budget workshop, some have argued that constables did get a raise last year in addition to a chief deputy designation and a stipend with that. And it's been said that there was no criticism from the sheriff's office when that happened last year. What's your response?
I know that there was some criticism. It may not have been done publicly, but I know that there was some done behind closed doors. And, you know, I'm not here to point fingers, but at the same time, what I will say is at the time, a constable who is responsible for running the entire agency, you're responsible to the state of Texas for that department. A constable does not work for the sheriff. They don't work for the chief of police. They are an independent elected official. And we were making less than the lowest level supervisor at the sheriff's office, which was a sergeant. And so we, as the constables, all came together and said, hey, you know, we're running an office. We're solely responsible for everything these officers do, and we feel like we should be brought up to where we need to be. The $8,000 was actually given to us by the Commissioner's Court. We didn't ask for the $8,000. We actually asked for a little more than that, but they decided to give the Justices of the Peace an $8,000 raise as well, which is completely fine. This year, I have no ambition to ask for a raise. I think that the court brought me up to where I should be for now. My deputies are my concern. My deputies and my staff are the ones that I'm concerned about giving a raise to. I know that the Sheriff's Office and the raise they asked for is kind of a broad scope of, you know, their administration and patrol deputies and detectives and jailers and all that. My main concern in court was just to talk about my deputies and making sure that they're on the same parity. So for those that think that we just went in and asked for some big $8,000 raise, we did that because the constables have been far behind for a long time in this county.
And Constable, with the 30 seconds or so we have left here, anything you want to mention that we haven't talked about just yet?
You know, I think that the Commissioner's Court has a tall order, and I think that they have a tough job. I know with the courthouse coming online, we've got all these other things that are coming down the pike in the county. Things cost money. Sometimes I think that maybe we bit off more than we could chew with some of our projects before we started thinking about our employees. But at the same time, we're here where we are now, and we have to do what we have to do to make it work. And, you know, whether that be raise the tax rate to try to give raises or just tell the employees, hey, you're going to have to hold on to what you got. Either way, I respect the court. They're elected just just like I am, and we all have a job to do, and we're here to serve the public, and I'm going to do that whether I'm making $5 an hour or $20 an hour.
All right, Smith County Constable Josh Joplin,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you for being
Thank
here.
you. Yes, sir.
Appreciate the time. That'll do it for this week's edition of East Texas Politics on East Texas Now. We'll see you back here next week.